Hello and welcome to Das Nostalgia Podcast, episode 22. As usual, I'm your host Anatoly, and today I have another wonderful guest with me for your listening pleasure. Sir, please introduce yourself.
Hey, my name's Brano. You can find me on the internet at FMV Story. That's because I'm a big FMV games enthusiast.
Nice.
Because I honestly think these games are very, very underwhelmingly unresearched. So I'm kind of trying to spread my love about these games around.
Very, very cool. I'm glad to have you here. FMV games is a really cool topic, and because there is a pretty big overlap, right, for my field, for specifically DOS, right?
There certainly is.
Yeah,
Well,
a lot of the early FMV titles were released on multiple platforms, but PC was one of them because that was the thing with the CD-ROM drive. So
And there's actually, I think the whole list that I got over is like 150 games that were made for DOS only.
right,
So we're not only talking about the whole PC, which is like maybe 400 or 500 games, but only for DOS we have 150, which is something we couldn't go in one podcast.
No.
So we divide this.
we decided to limit ourselves for now. But before we get to the main topic, sir, do you have a memory of your first encounter with an IBM PC or a compatible?
Sure. As you can hear from my lovely accent, I come from the Eastern Europe. And my first recollection of IBM PC is actually like we were going to buy a PC for my older brother who was at the high school at the time, and for studying purposes, of course.
Right.
Anyway, my first memory is when we bought this old IBM Schneider. It was German made, and it was actually a slim PC, so it wasn't a tower like most of the machines at the time. It was amazing piece of machinery. It was 286,
Nice.
standard 640 kilobytes of memory and 40 megabytes hard drive, and this old, my God, what was it, 13-inch monitor, and I remember it had on the back like a sticker that says this monitor complies with the regulatory and health certificates from year 1968 or something. Just like, oh, okay, cool. And anyway, like we didn't get any games in the beginning. I recall just my brother toying around with the DOS shell. So like my first task that I was able to do is probably I changed the color scheme from cyan to magenta or something like that. And the first game I played was actually Gorilla's Bass. So that was first game, and I think the Nibbler was the second one that
Nice.
got
Well, they go well together.
and it all kind of started from there. So Prince of Persia, of course, all of these games were pirated. Like
Yes.
this is what we did at the time. Wolfenstein 3D, Cyclus. What was that? Cyclus from Accolade. I think that was pretty cool game, and the usual bunch that everyone played.
Yes.
And I must say, of course, like Civilization was one of the first
Yeah.
games, and you might know that none of us spoke English.
No,
So
yes.
like in a sense, it's amazing that me and my brother we were able to play and learn to play Civilization without any knowledge of English.
For me, I was lucky. There was a pirate Russian translation of Civilization, so I've played Civilization in Russian most of my life. Well, not anymore. I don't. But
Okay,
but
that's kind of cheating, but okay.
all right. So what are we here? What are we going to talk about today, sir?
Okay, and as I mentioned, DOS games and FMV games, this is the huge pile of 150 games. So we decided to, well, what I didn't want to do is the usual stuff that you have with FMV games. Like everyone knows Gabriel Knight
Yes.
series, everyone knows Wing Commander. So I kind of wanted to steer away from this.
Good.
However, to have some specific topic, we kind of settled on, I don't even know how to say this, DOS FMV games adopted from a different medium. That means from either from books or movies, some TV series. and we were lucky to choose 15 lucky contenders, and
Yeah,
hopefully we'll go over all of them.
yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, so let's start. And the first game would be, it's actually a trilogy of games, and that's the Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. And yeah, that's a pretty interesting title in, I'd say, many views. To my knowledge, if we ignore all of the FMV games that were done for the arcade in the 80s for Laserdisc, Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective is actually the first FMV ever produced on personal computer. And I think so.
Yeah, it could be 99. Also, if you look at it, also one of the earliest PC CD-ROM titles. Clearly not the earliest, but one of the first wave of that.
That's for sure. And it was developed by company ICOM.
Which I like.
Yeah, it's not a very well known company. I think like
It
some of
used
their
it used to be.
it used to be. Yeah. They are pretty much famous for two series of games, and that's the Adventures of Deja Vu 1 and 2, I think, and a Shadowgate series. I think that was a series. I never played it, to be honest.
Yeah,
So.
and there's also Uninvited and all the other stuff that they did. But those games came out on like a variety of platforms. They're still around too. They're under a different name. The guy who recently like kickstarted a whole bunch of stuff. It's the original person.
Yeah, and that's the Dave Marsh, I think, with the Car Royal Lufs or something like that, and they formed the company Zojoi, Zojoi, I think. They kickstarted the Dracula, I think, in 2012 or 13, and it failed.
Yes, I
They
pledged.
Oh, you did? Cool.
Yeah.
I didn't even know about it, to be honest. It wanted like 150K, but they ended up with 55K. But they released the game anyway.
Yeah.
You can get it on Steam, and definitely do. Like, this is... Yeah, maybe we can move to the game.
So let's talk about the actual Consultant Detective. First of all, I think we have to note, and I didn't know this until very recently, actually, until a friend of mine tweeted that they were playing the game. It's based on a game.
board game.
Yeah, it's a game book.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't know that.
Yeah, everyone always thinks, oh, Sherlock Holmes, it's based on the books or something. But the Consulting Detectives was actually a game book that was released in 1981.
Which explains a lot, because it plays like a fucking book.
Yes, yes, that is a correct observation. Very good, my dear Watson. Originally it wasn't released on the DOS computer. This is originally a console game, and interestingly, it was Wikipedia is wrong in this because they say
Oh
it was
no.
made for FMV Towns, but it's not actually true because it was made for TurboGrafx CD in, I think, and released in March 1991. And FMV Towns version came later on. There's also a huge difference between these two versions because, like, when they worked on the TurboGrafx version, the owners and engineers from TurboGrafx actually said it's not possible to make the game. So, like, ICOM did something very, very special. However, the game was running on, it was very slow. It was running only 10 frames per second, while the FMV Towns and, all DOS version and all the following were the 15 frames per second. So that's like, well, that is also in the color palette, but like, that's not that important, to be honest. Anyway, let's talk about the DOS version and the game itself. So as we mentioned, it's based on the board game. And it kind of plays like a board game. You start the game, you're presented with a small introduction of the Sherlock Holmes, and it always felt to me right, like this is a surprisingly good first attempt on full motion video, because they didn't start it with the blue screen or anything. This is pure and simple original filmmaking with all the props, actors, proper writing.
It's like a shitty TV.
It's a shitty TV, but it was like you can see that the money went in
into
actually trying
into
to.
building the two walls and buying a chair. It's on the cheap side, but yes, considering how cheap some of the FMV was later, like yes, I will say that yes, it's a decent effort to look. For all they could afford, they did all right.
Yeah, I think so, and there's also like a lot of actors and anything. Like, usually you have these five guys from canteen that they just took from their break or
Yes.
something,
Yeah.
and this kind of looks like this is even if they were not the greatest actors.
They're
I
like
think some of them
local
were.
theater actors probably and stuff. Like that's what they feel like. Everybody's doing a terrible British accent.
That's something I wanted to say. Is like in all the. Like reviews for this game were pretty much very rave, like, oh, it's the future of the gaming. We need to take into consideration this is 1991.
Yes.
In like games that were released at that time where I don't even know, like Duke Nukem, Eye of the Beholder, and Civilization that I already mentioned. Even like the games that had 256 colors, like VGA. When this started? 1990, maybe late 1989. I don't even know. Like, so like having a game with really full motion video in 1991 was something like a stellar look into the future.
DOS version looks good, especially when you compare it to, like, let's say even like a better console version. Like I'm familiar with the Sega CD version actually.
Yeah, that's like shittiest version.
And yeah, it's
yeah, that Sega CD was that's like Sega CD has most FMV games, but like it has low technical quality for FMV possible. I think it was like the worst machine for making FMV, but yeah, that's a sidestep. The thing with the accent that you actually mentioned is like all of the American, I think Computer Gaming World and other magazines were saying like, this is like a great English accent, actors speaking in a natural English, historical
oh boy.
way and so on. And then I had like UK magazine saying like, this is absolutely the worst mispronunciations and bad accents I've ever seen.
Yeah, they're
and so
bad.
On. So you could see these two different points of view and two different worlds. But the game kind of plays very weirdly. You are presented with one of the three possible challenges or
cases,
and after the introduction where you are presented the case, and one of them is about murders and possibly a mummy that is involved in the murder. You have this supernatural thing, and of course, like Sherlock Holmes is saying, like, this is probably bullshit. Let's find out what's going on. The essential gameplay is you see the video clip, then within the video clip you are presented with a clue or not. And based on that clue, you move to another area. That means like you have the actual list of persons of interest. And you click on this list and you can visit the person and so on. You uncover another clue and so on and so on. And when you get enough clues, you go to see the judge. Judge presents you with a couple questions, and if you answer correctly, you win the game.
Yeah, I also would like to point out that's not all FMV. When you travel to a person and talk to them, that's in FMV, but a lot of it is also fucking reading newspapers on the screen, which is really boring.
Yeah, and the great thing about that is actually with the box version of the game, you actually get the newspapers as a physical thing.
Right.
It's awesome.
Yeah, well, I didn't have access to that, but overall, it plays like a board game. There's very little interaction. You just click and you either read or you listen. Well, and watch. So there isn't really much to do.
And like it's interesting in a sense. Like, this game needs time. If you want to just play it, you start to play it, and you don't have the patience, you actually will not move anywhere.
Right. Yes.
It's very interesting. Like, you can jump into the game and start playing it, but it actually doesn't tell you like, hey man, this is a clue, exclamation mark or whatever. It never tells you. You kind of have to listen to everything, process it, and then kind of start piecing everything together. This is something I really liked about the game. It's not very interactive, but you really need to dedicate a freaking time to actually, think about what's going on. And these cases are pretty funny. And when I mentioned the judge, like, his questions are sometimes so stupid. Like, he asked, who did it? What was the motive? But I remember there was one case, and he asked the question like, what did the general call his wife? And there were a couple answers, and the right answer was that the general called his wife a horse face. And there's a lot of little nuanced jokes within the game. Well, not that nuanced, but little weird jokes within the game. Is like, you came to see one guy, and his son was murdered, and you're trying to figure out what was his son like, and so you ask these questions, and you see, as you talk to this guy in the background, you see a mother of this murdered guy, wailing and screaming and everything. Like, she's crying her heart out. So the father of this guy is telling, like, yeah, I cut off my son because he was the worst and blah blah blah, and I haven't heard from him for a long time. And as he hears, his wife failing in the background, he says, there, my dear, we still have each other. And the woman starts crying even more. She's like, okay, it's a little, weird jokes within the game, but I liked it, to be honest. What we will get to within the, when we will talk about these games, something like, they usually are not that worth playing, as they are.
There's going to be a lot of that.
Yeah, like, they are usually very great to watch, not so fun to play. Problem with the FMV was limited replayability, and like, for this game you paid $70, and if you played over it, 3 cases, you might finish it in few hours, and you'll never replay it again. The only way how to improve was just to use less steps to win the cases.
Right.
And, at the end of each case, actually, Watson is saying something very profoundly wise, like, okay, this time you kinda fucked up. Let's enroll to university course for detectives. And that's the ending of the game. Yeah, so that's, in a sense. Oh, something I wanted to mention is, that doesn't have a connection with FMV, but within the clips is a very lovely hand-drawn scenes. I'm not sure if you saw them. They look like those court sketches. They are really, really great, and people don't notice these kind of things. And like I wanted to point out specifically a woman who was making these sketches, Catherine Tutelian, because I'll mention her later for her work on Are You Afraid of the Dark, which is one of the best FMV games I ever played. Yeah. Anyway, Sherlock Holmes made a lot of money. They sold about 250,000 copies, but they kind of died because there was no concept of improving the gameplay or anything. All they did.
Let's not forget, it's 3 games with being released within 3 years, and each one of them was just literally a set of 3 new cases.
Like, to be honest, I think like they all had it prepared in advance.
Yes, well, probably I don't actually know this for a fact, but something probably tells me that those are the cases from the game book. No.
That's a good question.
I don't know, but I would say they're most likely probably are. I don't think they would go through all of this without. I mean, it's easier to just adapt the existence. It might not be. If somebody played it, please, and that's not the case, please tell us in the comments.
Exactly. It makes sense, but like, to be honest, I wasn't bothered to look too deep into it. So anyway, we'll probably move to another game because at this rate we will be here till
yeah, well, that's how it always is. Yeah, be prepared. But I mean, we actually have a lot of the ground covered for the next one.
That's actually true, because the next game is Dracula Unleashed, and made by technically the same team.
But published by a different company. I was surprised.
And that's an interesting story, because it was published by Viacom, and that's the thing. In 1993, Viacom started actually buying ICOM. and the whole
Ah.
transaction was finished in 1995. So to be honest, we will be technically speaking like 4 games or like 3 titles within the
Oh
list is
yeah.
actually from the same company. uh, anyway, Dracula Unleashed is
He's like Sherlock Holmes consultant detective, but with Dracula.
absolutely right. It's the same engine. It's the only difference technically is you have a
The gameplay is
Chris,
slightly
Chris
different.
yeah, like it has high-res user interface for a change,
Mm-hmm.
which was probably the most thing they did on the engine. But I would, to be honest, I don't know much. What with the difference between the story in the game and the story of Dracula?
Well, it's
I
a, it's
have
a sequel.
kind of sequel. Okay, that makes sense because like I should probably read Dracula because I live half a mile from the house that Bram Stoker actually was born and lived
Nice.
in. But uh, the main difference between Dracula Unleashed and Sherlock Holmes is in a sense a light game with a light mood. It's kind of funny. It doesn't take itself very seriously. Dracula, on the other hand, is trying to have this foggy Londonian
Yeah.
mood,
And
and
the gameplay is a bit more pressing because there's a time limit.
yeah,
That's the
there's the
main
time limit.
difference. You're working against the timer.
And the timer is like the creepiest idea ever because like you need to be at this and it's kind of weird that like you have again those videos and gathering the clues, and now the clues are meet me
Yeah.
15 minutes
Yeah.
after 10 a.m. at my house, and okay, where the hell do you live, okay, what the time it is, and so on. And there's actually an interesting Easter egg connected with the timer. I found it completely by coincidence. I'm not gonna try it, but I would love to find someone who would try to find this and like fulfill the Easter egg. And the Easter eggs kinda has like you pass the time in the game when you click on the
Mm-hmm.
clocks, and it passes in 15 minutes, I
Mm.
think. If you hit the current time, which means current
Right, of
time
your system clock?
yeah, exactly, you'll see a very rare video created by the programmers.
Really?
So but the thing is, even if you change the system clock, you can change it to 1950
Mm-hmm.
earliest, which means like you still have to click like 50 years and per 15 minutes. So that's gonna take a shit ton of hours to do. So yeah, that's the Easter egg. I don't even know if someone saw it. I just know it exists.
Huh. I think
Maybe it's a.
it,
I don't know.
that's very doable. Why would you click on, just change your timer to look what's the time was in the game, change it to 15 minutes.
That's something you can't, because you cannot go you cannot change the system clock before 1950 if the game
Oh,
is
it
in
has to
1899.
wait. So wait. So it actually has to match your date as well, not just the
Yeah,
time.
yeah, the
Okay.
dates too. So like you have 50 years of clicking per 15 minutes.
Wow, that's interesting.
I found it by chance. I don't know.
I should try that
Uh,
out. Then
anyway,
just hack the game to you can just do it the other way around. Hack the game to find out where it stores its time and just advance.
yeah, that's a good idea.
See, I
But
will do that tomorrow.
do it. Do it. Awesome. And
Remind
record
me.
video and pass it to
Remind me on Twitter.
Okay, I will. Anyway, again, I liked Sherlock Holmes and I liked Dracula Unleashed. In some senses, it kind of builds the atmosphere very well. It has its cheese, as every FMV game
Yes.
points, but like it is genuinely creepy sometimes. And interestingly, like it takes a lot of trial and error in the beginning, but when you get to the half point of the game, all of a sudden, like the body count goes up so quickly, and like people start dying like flies, near to you,
Mm-hmm.
and it has like. I'm not sure if you saw the video of the game, but like the ending is genuinely creepy and scary and very well made. except the ending special effects when the Dracula is killed. It kind of looks like something from the Tales of the Crypt, which is probably not something they wanted to do. But and the music that is supporting all of this is, Carmina Burana or Fortuna from Karl Orff, which is one of the
most used pieces of music ever.
That is true, but it really fits within this
Well,
game.
what doesn't it fit?
Yeah,
I'll be doing dishes next time. I'll put it in the background. It's gonna be epic dishwashing session.
Okay, you can do that. Yeah, but there is one thing that actually completely threw me off in the beginning. Like the story begins is like, okay, I'm brother of Quincy Morris, who was the original Dracula hero, I think, and I'm here in London to find out what happened to my brother and why he died. And so we move a couple months ahead, and I kind of forgot about my brother, but I found a woman that I want to marry, and okay, I'm gonna marry her, but I should really think about my brother and find out what happened. It's like, okay, doesn't make a lot of a sense, like the whole thinking of the main hero. But there's a scene, and there's like the main point is there's the Hades Club of gentlemen and everything, where he's introduced, and like the Quincy Morris, the original hero, was member of this club, and you were joined as a new member, and like you are being introduced to every character. And there was something that completely like made me angry, and is there's one rambling idiot, I'd say, a person with the Eastern European accent, and another guy says, "Oh, don't mind our Czechoslovakian friend."
Oh boy.
which is gonna be like, yeah, Czechoslovakia was in 1918.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, fuck you, do your research, guys. Yeah, anyway, so that kind of threw me off, and I wasn't able to forget this little thing until I finished the game. It's just weird. Definitely, it's creepy. Sometimes it has its moments where it's very, very cheesy. Just go on YouTube, check the playthrough. It's maybe 1.5 hours, maybe 2 hours long. First hour is a bit dragging, and
Yeah.
you won't see what's happening, but it's beautifully gonna start making sense in second part of the game, and I loved that. There's another interesting thing is actually the designer of writer of the game is Andrew Greenberg, and he worked for White Wolf. And if you don't know White Wolf Company, they created Vampire Masquerade, and I think
okay.
he also worked on that, and he also worked on Wizardry games.
Interesting. Yes, I think that's where I heard that name from.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's Dracula Unleashed. There's another one concept that I really hated about the game, because there's a big inventory and you're getting random things and random items. And like to progress within the game, you need to know which item you need to have in your hand before going into specific place to trigger a specific animation.
Yeah.
Which is like clusterfuck of random guessing.
Also, you can die. Like you can just go into the place, and because you didn't do something previously, you can die. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I never owned the original copy of the game. I'm pretty sure all of this is explained in the manual and everything, and it makes sense. But the trial and error nature of the game makes it very, very hard, and makes it very, very hard to play. But again, if you just watch it, you don't care about this stuff.
All right. Awesome.
Go watch it; it's fun.
Yeah. Shall we move on to a bit of a different thing? Well, next on your list, I see there is Rebel Assault 1 and 2.
We should probably split that.
Yeah, and I will say there isn't really much to say about the first Rebel Assault, because while it's a game that's clearly using the full motion video technology to stream its backgrounds, as far as digitized actors, it really just like it's just like a couple of scenes like from the movies, and just a few seconds each time.
Yeah, there isn't much to say about the game. It's like
Also, I don't like it. First Rebel Assault is terrible. I know it's a classic, but it's borderline unplayable.
I agree, and I think Rebel Assault 2 is unplayable too.
I
But
Rebel Assault 2 is a lot more playable. And, well, Rebel Assault 2 is the one that we should get into, really.
yeah, that's true. Just shortly, Rebel Assault 1. It was completely forgotten project. No one really cared about it at LucasArts. But the technology is very interesting. Streaming video at 150 kilobytes is something.
It's really impressive for the time.
Yeah,
It's it's full screen. Like, it's really full motion video. The backgrounds are full screen scrolling, and you have choices, and stuff. And it puts sprites on top of them, too.
and it's all work of one guy, Vince Lee, and like he loved at he loved Cinemaware games because they were very cinematic, and that's something he wanted to reproduce. So he kind of like Rebel Assault to me is just 1980s arcade game
Yeah, it feels like one,
into
too.
FMV era.
Yeah.
That's it. It has shitty controls, and that's
Yes,
all
the
we
controls
need
are
to know.
terrible. The best controls are with the joystick. You can pretty much not control that game with anything else. Like, don't bother
Yeah.
with the mouse or the, God forbid, keyboard, because like with the mouse's sensitivity is way too fast. With the keyboard, it's way too slow. Like, it's
You
pretty
could
it's
play
pretty
it with the
terrible.
keyboard.
Fairly certain that you could. Don't quote me on that. I don't even want to look at that game.
Okay, I never. You know what's interesting about Rebel Assault is there's actually there is original FMV footage in the game. Now I realized. There's a second or third level. I don't know when you actually attack the Star Destroyer
Uh-huh.
and you fly around it. This is actually a real model of Star Destroyer that was used in the movie.
Huh.
So
Interesting.
they kind of so it's not computer generated graphics.
Right,
It's
right.
a model used, and like this is probably the only usage of the proprietary FMV within the game. But like yeah, I realized that just now
Huh.
that they use some of the real props.
Interesting.
Yeah, I also wanted to say something, but I completely forgot. But
Who
never
gives a
mind.
shit? It's
Let's move.
Rebel Assault. I do not recommend it.
Just watch it. It's
Even then,
oh,
like,
yeah.
it's boring and nothing fucking happens in it.
Now I remembered. Rookie 1, you actually could choose to be a hero is either a male or female.
Right, right.
But the Rookie 1 in second game is a male,
Yes.
like
Well,
strictly.
yeah.
And it's also, I think, a hero of some books. I don't know.
Something.
I don't care that much.
yeah.
Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah. Rebel Assault 2, 2 years later. Much better game. It's
Definitely much better.
it's
game.
not that it's a great game, but it's I think it's fairly playable as a game. The first level is fun. It does that a lot, where it sort of scrolls multiple levels of the FMV on top of each other.
Yeah.
It does that a lot, especially like in the ship playthroughs, which are the most annoying parts of the game, when you fly inside something and you can't hit the walls or the ceiling and stuff. Like, those multi-layered things are they look pretty incredible. And it also has a built-in difficulty editor. Like, you press like
yeah.
F10 or something, and it brings up for each of the levels. You have like bunch of parameters. You can set the game on easiest thing. And like the first game, it has, the flying sections. It has the same. It repeats all the same things that the first game did. Like, it has the flying sections, has from the inside, from the outside where you're not allowed to touch edges, and the on feet sections where you just sort of laser tag stormtroopers and stuff. But it does things so much better. Like in the laser tag sections, like, you can hide behind things and look through different sides and stuff. And it's a good looking game, and it has like Star Wars FMV with people in suits and stuff, and
And this is all original props
Oh,
that
yes,
were used in
yeah.
Return of the Jedi.
for the first time since the original trilogy
Yeah,
at that time. Yeah.
I think that's what everyone is claiming, and even the LucasArts itself
Yeah.
is like kind of saying it in their website is like, this is the first time since 1983 that we reused, 15-year-old sets at the time, or I don't know how many.
And they're good. Those cutscenes are fairly well staged, all things considered and stuff. I mean, like they're not Wing Commander, but they're pretty good. Funny stuff is funny. The action stuff is exciting.
I agree. To be honest, I was going over the reviews, and a lot of people were complaining, this is completely shitty and boring and
because
everything.
by 1995 we knew better. I mean, it's an interactive, it's an FMV rail shooter. Like it's only a thing it's gonna be. But as far, especially comparing with the first game, like the second game is a masterpiece.
Yeah, that's for sure. And like for me, what it seems the Rebel Assault 2 really is, I think Lucas was actually using the technology of blue screen and everything to prepare for a new trilogy, for the shitty trilogy. I think that's just how I see Rebel Assault 2. Like,
I mean, they were at this point in different buildings even, so.
They were in different buildings, but kind of they had to work kind of in the technology. I saw one of the interviews making of, and it's on the internet, making of the Rebel Assault 2, and you actually see George Lucas talking. So whether it was just the marketing stunt or anything, or whether these people actually were feeding him the results, I don't know. But I don't see any reason why some of the technology wouldn't be used for prototyping or demoing or something. Makes sense. Anyway, yeah, FMVs are great. All those fly-throughs and everything. It looks crispy, amazingly well made.
Yeah, I will say I'll recommend it just on technical aspects alone. It's may not be the best game ever, but like you can play first few levels and get a feel for it. First few levels actually very unlike the first level. First level of like Rebel Assault is impossible. Like first few levels of Rebel Assault 2 actually very, very playable. Like you can actually get like 3 levels in before you start having like any trouble. And stuff. So it's interesting to check out just because you're like, wow, yeah, that does look great.
Yeah, I agree completely. Like, for me, it's hard to say something about Rebel Assault because I completely sucked about these games.
Yeah.
I tried to play them, and I was failing completely miserably. And even in the second one, even when I had like the easiest difficulty possible, but I loved watching it, and it's great. And the FMV was actually who directed it?
No.
It was directed by Hal Barwood.
Oh, really?
The guy, the designer of Indiana Jones and Fate of Atlantis. And I think that was his only involvement, like the direction. But this guy worked with the Lucas on movies before, and maybe he worked with Spielberg also during 70s and 60s. Like, everyone knows that Spielberg and Lucas were actually the indie filmmakers of the 60s. So I think Hal Barwood was actually working in some degree with Lucas. And like, he's not the best director, I'm pretty sure, but like he did considerably very good job in comparison to most of the FMV games of the era. So, and another interesting tidbit is also like the guy who voiced the Darth Vader in the game, voiced Luke Skywalker in X-Wing game.
Oh, nice.
This is the only actor in the history of Star Wars that actually played the both characters.
Interesting. I don't actually remember what you sounded like in Rebel Assault. I remember like the guy in X-Wing was actually pretty good. That was a pretty good impression. I know it's not James Earl Jones, so it has to be just somebody doing a really good impression. I don't know who it is, but it's good.
Yeah, and to be in a spirit of Star Wars, Darth Vader was played by a different actor than it was voiced in Rebel Assault 2. I have no idea why. That doesn't even make any sense, but whatever. It's just interesting stuff that you can find out when going on the IMDb, cross-checking with Wikipedia and Moby Games. Like, you find really bizarre stuff. And, that's some of the things that actually stuck with me. And Google Easter eggs for the game too.
Yes.
Yeah, it's funny, and it's a lot of them, and they are great. Like, I think there's like chorus line stormtrooper dancing something. Go see it. It's fun. I think so. What's the next one?
The next one is probably the most interesting one on the list. It's the Are You Afraid of the Dark? The Tale of Orpheus' Curse. A title that remains to this day largely unknown for many reasons.
I don't know. I would love to know the reasons why this game didn't make it. I don't understand it.
I don't know. I think Are You Afraid of the Dark had a fairly limited appeal. First of all, let's talk about Are You Afraid of the Dark for a second.
Yes.
That is like a very weird product, right, of its time. It was a Canadian show that was popular essentially all over the world. Because it was horror anthology series for children, and in their early teens. So people who weren't allowed to watch, let's say, Tales from the Crypt, all right, would have to settle for Are You Afraid of the Dark? And in my country, they showed it in the morning, like not at night, but in the morning before school.
We didn't have it. Shame.
Yeah. So I am very familiar with it. I always used to think it was good, and now that I look at it, not most of it is not very good. But some of the stuff is I mean, it's very kid friendly. But some of the but some of the creepier stuff is still very creepy, surprisingly. But most of it is fairly, tame. It's kids television, but it has like the creepiest fucking intro.
Yeah, that is true. I watched on the YouTube couple I think like 2 or 3 episodes. I kind of like them. It's like if I imagined myself in a skin of an 8-9-year-old kid.
Well, yeah. If you're an 8 or 9, it's scary. If you're like 13, not so much anymore. It's a fairly limited appeal. However, I'm gonna give them props. I mean, it's the kind of show that would never get made today. Like, absolutely not even close.
Yeah, and I think a new generation deserves something like that.
Yeah, like something like, especially now TV is blooming, they should sort of bring stuff like that back. And I know they've been in talks to do it for forever, but nothing's ever happened. In America, it was aired on Nickelodeon, I think. So
it's
but it's a Canadian production. So, but the whole premise of the show is an anthology series. So this club of kids, the Midnight Society, they get together and they tell scary stories, and they throw shit into the fire every time they announce the title, and there's always some kind of a twist in the end where like there's some kind of a moral, whatever, something happens in the story that connects to the Midnight Society kids, and then they put out the fire and they fuck off. That's essentially that's every episode and stuff, which is kind of weird because Are You Afraid of the Dark? The game doesn't actually do that up front. It like hides it. That was like a really weird choice to not actually have the Midnight Society intro. You actually play the game for like 5 minutes before that is even introduced.
Yeah, and the whole game, to be like, let me put it right out there. Are You Afraid of the Dark is the best game from today's list. And I love this game. It's forgotten. It's okay. First, let me tell you, like, it is a sort of a Myst-like / Seventh Guest something.
Yeah,
very, very much in the nature of how you play. It's a horror, logic, adventure, inventory, all of this crap. It's so much better than
Myst.
Okay, much better than Myst.
Or the Seventh Guest.
It's like everything is better than... Okay, I did not say that out loudly. It's an awesomely made game from a technical point of view.
Yes.
But it's also amazingly well written.
It's a cool game. I've never actually finished it because I found I actually got stuck in it. As an adult, I actually don't know if I can classify it as a particular kids game because I found certain things fairly challenging. I think that's another thing that probably contributed to it. First of all, I didn't even know about this game's existence for a long time. I just think probably the failure of it was mostly marketing or the absence of thereof. Because like I didn't know that game existed until I think early 2000s.
Okay, I remember a review from Excalibur, which was a Czech magazine in 1994. So I remember reading the review that was praising the game, but it's like the only mention for many, many, many years.
The graphics are nice. The premise is really good. It's very much an Are You Afraid of the Dark sort of premise. So it's like a brother and a sister go inside.
And it's great because you actually play a young girl, an African American girl, and her brother, who's white guy, which is something not that usual if you think about it. And you go into this creepy old like theater that was known for like it's the tale of the Orpheus curse, and Orpheus was disappeared 100 years ago because of whatever, something went wrong, and his whole family died, blah blah blah. And you go in with your brother. He got kidnapped by a spirit of Orfeo, and you play the girl and try to rescue him. Then within the game it kind of turns where the girl gets kidnapped, and then you play as a guy, and like at the end of the game I think you kind of play both of them. And it's like, it was written by Raymond Benson. If you don't know the guy, just Google him. He's the designer and writer of Return of the Phantom game, Dark Seed 2.
Oh, okay.
And
I know
he's
who that
actually
is.
yeah, and he's actually a writer of James Bond books now. Really cool guy. He's actually in the Big Box PC game group now. And like, he put together a great team of people. The theater where the game is played is actually an interesting mix of computer graphics, of CGI, FMV, and also like the real photos of I think Chicago something theater. And if you so you move within the theater and you see CGI, then you go into the basement and you see the actual digitized photos. And interesting thing is, it doesn't strike you as something weird. Like, your brain is actually okay with it. It's a different method of, showing things to you. In other games, this would not work at all.
Well, it's the 90s, you had things. It's the 90s, and it actually feels very, although it's not like a Macromedia director game. It very much feels like one.
You move from.
You move from static points. You kind of have that thing where it's a blend of different styles. You have full motion video. Well, first of all, let's talk about full motion video in this game. There really isn't much because most of this game is voiced like comic booky slideshows. And then sometimes you'd have animation on top of that. Like the first time you see the headless lady appear, it's animated, and there's skeletons running at you later and stuff. And then the Midnight Society is actually presented in a separate video player, essentially.
Which should we probably mention right now is like, the game starts, as we mentioned, this story of the girl and her brother are missing and everything. And after 5-10 minutes, you actually realize that you're switched to the Midnight Society video, and all of a sudden you realize that you are telling the story to the Midnight Society, so they can bring you as a new member. And it's an interesting mechanics, because like, you don't see them very often. You actually won't see them at all until end of the game if you don't screw up. Because if you screw up something and you kill one of your protagonists, a video of Midnight Society shows up, and it's like, you're probably wrong, telling the story wrong. You should probably adjust it a little bit, and then you can go back and continue with the game and doing something different. So it's like the biggest be the Midnight Society, but if you play the game right, you don't see them at all.
Right. Yeah.
And all of the footage of Midnight Society is actually original FMV footage, so it's not reused from the TV series or anything.
Yeah, it's they filmed it on that set that they filmed for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and I don't remember if they throw anything into the fire.
They do, I think. That's.
They do?
I think that's
their shtick, right?
It's the first. Like you play the game, then the kidnapping happens. So like the first plot reveal happens, and then it goes instantly from a slideshow into the Midnight Society video clip, and I think that's when the title reveal happens. Is when they throw like, I present to you the tale of the Orpheus curse. I might be wrong about this, but I'm fairly sure that I'm right. It's a very interesting game. It's sad that it's forgotten.
Yeah,
even though I've never finished it, I would totally recommend it. It's a cool adventure game. Plus, come on, if you're a fan of Are You Afraid of the Dark, um, it feels like one of the creepier episodes of the show. Like it's
yeah.
very much in that style of like, yes, we're kid friendly, but we're trying to push it to be as creepy as possible.
There's no blood or anything. I think it is. I don't even remember if there's something really really scary. Some of these there are some jump scares. They are
Mm-hmm.
not clear jump scares. Like if you're a kid, probably like if you're adult, you'll just say ha 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 or something.
Yeah, all the skeletons
But
especially.
oh, skeleton is actually awesome. There's a scene where you are chased by a skeleton and like I think the skeleton is from the Wax Museum, so you need to run into the basement where the furnace is, and you just turn around and you see how the skeleton is running towards you, and he just melts, and it's amazing because if you see this scene, this was actually a model, on the wiring, and you could see the wiring a little bit. Yeah, they used any trick possible. As I said, CGI, FMV, digitized photo. They used props from the Natural Museum, and they just digitized it, and they used the animatronics. They used everything they could. It's like I don't know how it worked, but this game looks to me like a product of love.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that yeah, it's an interesting title. It would be nice if it got rediscovered.
Yeah, I would love to see it any new. One last interesting thing I actually know about this game is this is interesting. Like the actors were played by one, like the video is played by one person and usually voiced by someone else,
Mm-hmm.
which is I think for almost every character within the game. And the voice of Orfeo is the guy called T. Ryder Smith, and he's like for gamers, he's probably most known from the BioShock franchise.
Hmm.
I don't remember which character he voiced in BioShock, but one of the main characters, I think.
Interesting.
And he played, if you know the bad science fiction of the 90s and you remember a horror movie Brain Scan
Yeah.
with Edward Furlong, he
Mm-hmm.
played the trickster.
Oh God. All
So
right.
the so he's the voice of the Orfeo.
Nice.
If you haven't seen guys Brain Scan, go see it. It's fun.
Oh God.
What? I like that. Okay, the next on the list
Oh
is
God. Yeah. The Ripley's Believe It or Not game.
yeah.
Riddle of
That's
Master Lu. All I can say about that game is it's bad. It's a bad adventure game.
eh, it's like again. Let me say something. I love FMV games. I know a lot of them are bad, but I know like people don't realize how much fucking work is to create a game. Like everyone is
Oh, that's a game with
thinking
a very high production value. All of the sprites are digitized people in game, and then
yeah,
on the 3D backgrounds, and they look really good.
yeah, yeah.
There's very little actual FMV in the game. You know,
Yeah, well, there are a little tidbits. Like
yes,
you see the
here and there, yeah.
small windows here and there,
Hmm.
and they are pretty good. Like, I think the main actor is pretty likable guy. His Asian girlfriend is
Oh
pretty cool
God,
too.
that fucking asshole. I just don't like the style of that. Not only the design is bad, but I just don't like the style. It tries to be this, pulp adventure,
Well,
and it
we should
fails
start
by making its
saying,
protagonist like a complete fucking douchebag. He just looks down on everyone. Like it's like really weird. He's just like, in
we
my
should probably start saying who the hell was Ripley in first. uh, like, okay, this game is actually not based on a movie, a book. It's based on a person.
right.
And I should probably remember what was the full name of the Ripley guy, but let's imagine there was a Ripley guy
Mm-hmm.
who was sort of a famous illustrator and traveler and sort of a journalist. And he was gatherer of weird facts or obscure things. And he also I think he started the museums and like
Yeah,
I think-
there's one not right by me, but close to where I am.
Yeah, have you ever been in one?
No, I've never been in one. I walked right by one.
There's one in London. I saw it. Also, I was passing by. I might have a look one day.
Anyway, it was way too expensive to go into a place like fucking Ripley. I can go and into Met for free, but fucking Ripley's fucking Believe It or Not, where it's like half the shit is bullshit anyway. So it's like I gotta pay $40.
Hey, all of these facts were confirmed.
Oh, great. Well, I've seen some of the stuff in the book, and it's pretty fascinating. But as far as museums, no, I have never been in one.
Yeah, okay. My feelings toward this game is it was very technically well made. The engine is actually the Microprose engine that was
Makes
used
sense,
in
and like the Return of Phantom and Rex Nebula,
Rex
it
Nebula,
feels
yeah.
very much like that, only in high resolution.
Yeah, they actually bought it from Microsoft and started using it. Microsoft
Microprose, you mean?
Microprose disbanded the group that was making adventures, and they just sold all of that stuff. And yeah, Riddle of Master Lu was born. It was written by Lee Sheldon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the guy who was making FMV games for South Peak, like Temujin.
Dark Side of... Oh, fuck.
The
What's that?
Moon.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Dark Side of the Moon. That's
That's
the
a
name.
game that nobody knows about.
Like, Dark Side of the Moon is another interesting game. Everyone hated it at the time. I think it's pretty good. Like, but I think
Hashtag not DOS.
Yeah, not DOS. Maybe at my Twitter account I might mention it one day. Anyway, and Lee Sheldon also wrote few episodes of Star Trek Next Generation, which is something that people don't really know. And the game itself is standard adventure. I tried to play it. It's just so fucking hard.
It's hard, it's boring, and I
It's
find all the
illogical.
characters really unlikable, which is not fucking helping.
Yeah, it's and that is kind of the problem. It is a problem, but the game has so much to offer in terms of exotic locations and everything.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
You go to Egypt. No, Egypt is only in the beginning, but you go to Peking, Eastern Islands, Peru, Germany, where there's fucking castle made of Ace of Spades or something. It offers a very well graphics, awesome locations, but I think in this castle there was that was the moment when I said, fuck it, I'm just gonna watch the video. It's like you got locked into one room and there's some chemicals and laboratory and anything, and you just have put anything together, and it didn't make any sense. It didn't tell me anything. It was just too hard. I like adventure games, and I love everything from LucasArts Sierra and to the newer stuff, like newer, like 1999 or something. Just probably end of my gaming, more or less. That was just too hard a game. I wanted to love it. I think it's pretty good game. You said your points and you are completely right. For me, the bigger problem was that it was so hard.
Well,
And
it's bad design. I'm sorry. If your adventure game is far more enjoyable with the walkthrough, it's bad puzzle design.
Yeah.
But I also do find like I would keep playing it if I, to the very least, like the characters. But I kind of fucking I feel that Ripley is really treating everybody like a piece of shit, and I'm like, why is he acting so superior to everybody? Like that really bothers me.
Because he's Ripley.
Yeah, well, fuck him, fuck that guy.
Yeah. I don't have much to say about this game. I think all of
Personally, I wouldn't recommend it. Just watch a Let's Play if you must. It will give you a pretty good impression of the technical aspects of the game.
Watch video of every game. It doesn't matter, like bad ones or good ones. And okay, except one game from the list that is not even worth watching.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Like, I will say something like Rebel Assault 2. It's worth playing because you probably want to experience that multi-layered FMV technology, which I think is very impressive. And you will not get to experience it unless you're controlling it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So stuff like this, yes, it's worth. Are you afraid of the dark? Yes, it's worth playing for yourself, seeing and thing. Please believe it or not, if you're gonna play it, to
You're
minimize.
gonna hate yourself.
Yes,
afterwards.
to minimize your annoyance, you would have to play it with a walkthrough. And at this point, why don't you just watch a video? You know?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, okay, yeah.
All right,
That's it.
are we gonna
Let's
move on? And another hidden gem.
Yeah, that's.
But I mean, this
second worst game on the list.
Yeah, I will. I will say second worst game on the list. Yeah, okay. I've looked through the list and I'm gonna say yes. There's gonna be one that's worse.
And I'm gonna probably be kind of defending the game over the time.
Well, whatever. So it's the game is Bloodwing's Pumpkinhead's Revenge, which is a game that's based on a direct-to-video sequel to Pumpkinhead,
The horror movie Pumpkinhead.
which was terrible to begin with, and I think
Yes.
Pumpkinhead's Revenge, Pumpkinhead 2's claim to fame is one of the actors is Bill Clinton's brother.
Okay.
So he also appears in this game, obviously, as well.
Hey, like, to be honest, I found out yesterday that there are 4 movies.
Yes.
Pumpkinhead.
Yes.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
And actually directed by the same guy.
Yep.
What the fuck is this even about? I don't know. Anyway,
And Lance Henriksen is on record saying he hates all of them.
I saw Pumpkinhead 1 and 2 as a part of my research many months ago. Pumpkinhead 1 has Lance Henriksen.
Yes.
Which is a guy that I don't care what he played almost in everything.
Yes,
but I just love seeing him.
He's a working actor. He's that guy who is like he can't remember where he is, and people ask him, "Will you come to shoot our fucking horror movie in Bulgaria?" And he'll be like, "Can I gamble and drink?" And they'll be like, "Yes," and whatever.
Yes. For people who don't know who Lance Henriksen is, he's
Bishop,
the Bishop
from Aliens. Yes,
and he was in Terminator.
Oh,
he was
he's
in
in so
Hellraiser.
many things. I mean, he's great. Well, I mean, he's been in one Hellraiser movie, the
You
worst,
know-
the worst one by far. Well, no, not after they made the one after that. Yeah.
You know, he played in Super Mario Brothers.
Who was he in?
He was the king.
Oh, that's right. Yes, because he morphs at the end. Oh, I always forget that. Yes, I did know that.
Yeah.
But he's in a lot of
You see him
television.
3 seconds and it.
Yeah, he's in a lot of television. He's a great actor. I mean, he does different genres too. He does comedy, he does fucking action, he does hardball detective drama, horror. So he's the guy who will be there for a paycheck and will do the job. So he's a good actor. He is.
Anyway,
he's not in this game.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Like, the best part of the Pumpkinhead 1 was Lance Henriksen. And that was the only bearable part of the movie. Pumpkinhead 2 doesn't even have Lance Henriksen.
Yeah.
End of story. And
it's a terrible game. The decision to make the game is weird because it's sort of like you're in this first person Wolfenstein 3D like single level exploration maze.
yes.
Where you can't pass by certain points, and what you need to do, there are certain walls that will let you watch literally a clip from the movie, but you need to grab an object off the screen in those clips that you have no idea is there. There's no indication that you can.
Yeah, I would kind of elaborate on that a little bit.
It's really hard for me to explain
It's
because it makes no sense.
like you start in the maze, you see creatures running around that kind of look like a chicken with a skeleton head or something.
Mm-hmm.
You shoot it, you kill it, and it turns into a vortex or a whirlwind or something. You jump into that vortex. All of a sudden, FMV starts. That is just a random fly through something where you pick a crystals. When this scene is over and you grab a couple crystals, you go over to a wall. There is a screenshot from the movie, and you take this crystal to and use it on this picture from the movie, and the FMV starts. And there's a scene, and in this scene, for example, someone is lighting a cigarette, and you can click at that moment, and all of a sudden you have a cigarette or a lighter in your hand.
Right, but you weren't prompted. You
Exactly.
weren't
You just
told
random
that
click stuff.
Yeah, you just start clicking all over the screen and pray that you click on the right item to get it, because like you don't know
if you
which item
don't,
it is.
You need to do this all over again and again and again and again. I think the game was kind of made like like simulator of hell,
Yeah,
maybe.
it certainly feels like one.
And yeah, it doesn't prompt you to do anything. You
No.
just wander around and you
It
try. 90%
feels
of these items doesn't. You don't need them.
right. It really feels like it was a game that's like first of all, it's published by fucking Electronic Arts. All right, like how did this even happen? Like
Well, it's co-published.
yes, but it's a very unlikely. It seems like just such an unlikely license, right? The video game based on a direct-to-video sequel, and it looks like it was just really cranked together. Like somebody, that's I don't know anything about the making of this game, but this is my assumption. Somebody
I do.
had, yeah, like okay, so this is my theory. You can tell me how correct I am.
Yeah.
So somebody who was doing their thing with the 3D technology was doing their thing. So they have this, they got it to a maze or whatever, and they were looking to make a game and somehow made the fucking deal for Pumpkinhead, and so now they just quickly based that game around fucking digitized footage and threw it in that fucking 3D maze that they probably already had with all the assets, now made towards the license and stuff, because it doesn't feel like there's any design of any sort, anything that would connect it to Pumpkinhead anyway. Like
That might be connected because they had like one programmer and 3 project managers or something.
oh god, that's always great.
Yeah. I cannot confirm or deny like what you're saying, but there is like the electronic part is, I think they just co-published it. The
Alright.
main thing here is Motion Picture Corporation of America
Yeah, great.
Interactive Division.
Yeah, how did that happen?
How did that happen is, if you Google Motion Picture Corporation of America, it's a movie production company. They are probably most famous for Dumb and Dumber and Dumb and Dumber 2. But they decided to create an interactive division.
As many people did in the 90s.
Yes.
And failed as well, so
Yes, but they actually produced 3 or 4 FMV games. If you start Googling the company and people behind it, it's actually like those guys today are very high in media or entertainment. They
yeah.
are vice presidents.
well, fuck
today.
them. That would explain everything. That would explain why our movies are fucking shit today. Because
However-
people who made fucking Pumpkinhead's Revenge are behind them.
But what they did is something that made sense, and it's like you cannot take a movie, $40 million movie or something, and try to replicate it as a game. It doesn't work this way. The games has
The fuck you talking about? We have like three on our list.
well, the thing is, like, Pumpkinhead had like a budget maybe 3 million as a movie.
Did it? I would think it was less.
Or maybe even less.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure it's less, because at the time, you also remember, this was
let's
1995.
talk about the game development.
Yes.
Yeah, like the games at the time in mid-90s took what, 500,000, maybe a million to make. And just imagine like what Motion Picture Corporation of America did in some sense. Like Bloodwings is probably the first and the worst. What they did is they randomly put the scenes from the movie and then slap it on the game that it didn't even make sense. They, however, made also Soldier Boys later on. And we will talk about that much later. And Blue Heat. Soldier Boys and Blue Heat were already had like a design, sort of
Yeah.
a pre-made.
And Blue
And
Heat
where-
is pretty expensive.
And Blue Heat is pretty expensive. And the thing is, they were low-budget movies, so they tried to monetize on making the game. But, putting that together, you couldn't invest $1 million, $2 million into the game. So, yeah, they ended up as a shitty games. But what they tried to do is something that I think would make sense today or later on, and would make, for example, like the Star Trek games. They used the original props. They used what was used for making the movie to lower the overall cost of the game development for the FMV scenes, if you know what I mean. And if FMV didn't die during the 90s because of all of these shitty games, it would be maybe sort of a standard today. I'm not saying that we would have a lot of FMV games, but we would certainly have FMV games with a good production values. And maybe something that is actually playable and is interesting, like her story or something. It wouldn't be just the one game we have today. It would be maybe 10, 15 games per year. I don't know. That's just, and movie people invested heavily without understanding the gaming
Yes.
business, and that's when they burned themselves and retreated. If they didn't retreat, maybe today would be a completely different story. Anyway, Motion Picture Corporation of America Interactive Division made few games, and Blood Wings was pretty shitty. Didn't make any sense. Let's move away from it.
Yeah, we
I
probably
tried.
already paid more attention to this game than anyone ever should. So
There's a long play on YouTube. Go see it.
if you watch more than 5 minutes of that long play, you've already wasted your life. So
No,
I'm
it's amazing. Like, this guy actually made FAQ
yes.
and the whole walkthrough, and it's amazing. This guy probably spent months doing it,
Yeah.
and the game doesn't make any sense. But
No.
like, this guy made sense out of it. I might understand what they. Okay, no. I see
The
what they
famous
were trying to achieve. I don't understand it, but I kind of respect it. Let me put it this way.
Also, I have a big problem with that title. So, it's called Blood Wings, one word, Pumpkinhead's Revenge. The movie it's based on is called Pumpkinhead 2, Blood Wings, two fucking words.
Yeah.
So, I don't
You know what?
I don't
I don't
fucking
even
know.
understand why would you take a mature, level horror movie and make it a teen game, or I think that was even PG game or whatever.
I don't know. Who cares now? Whatever.
let's
Let's
move
move
on.
on. And we actually come to like a game that I have not even heard of until today, and so I didn't actually bother looking. I just looked at some screenshots, so you can tell me all about it. So it's Marco Polo by Philips Media, published by Infogrames in
Yes,
1995.
and originally this is a CDI title from 1994.
Well, since it's a Philips Media game.
Yeah, go figure. And it was released for DOS in 1995. And it's a pretty interesting title in a lot of sense. First of all, the background. This is actually based on TV series. And have you heard
Really?
of Marco Polo TV series from 1980s?
No.
Okay, so in the 1980s, there was Italian-made TV series Marco Polo. I think it had like 6 episodes or something. And it's one of the most epic TV shows ever made.
Really?
And it's amazing. It's on YouTube. Go find it.
I think they showed it where I lived, but I never watched it. I remember seeing like the listing and the TV guide.
Okay, let me just name it. A music, Ennio Morricone.
Nice. Well, at the same time, let's face it. What doesn't have music by
okay.
Morricone anymore?
Okay, let's talk about actors. Bart Lancaster,
Oh,
Leonard Nimoy, F. Mary Abraham, Ken Marshall, the main actor.
Wow.
If you saw Crowl, he was the main guy.
Yeah.
David Warner, Ian McShane.
Wow.
It's epic. It has a lot of great
fucking
actors.
sold. So it's a miniseries then, right?
It's a miniseries.
Okay,
It
would
has like
make
6
sense.
episodes.
Yeah, all right.
And it's great. It's a life of Marco Polo, and it has this old school 80s style of epicness. It is really great. What the Infogrames did, they took some of the scenes. There's not any original footage, I think. All they did, they took a couple scenes, a lot of screenshots. I think they took hundreds of screenshots from this show. And this title can be divided into two parts. One is game and one is edutainment. Which one to cover first? Should I start with the bad part?
Whatever.
Okay, let's start with the bad part, and that's the game. You play Marco Polo, you start somewhere in Turkey or whatever, and your mission is kind of moved to China and back. I don't know, I never played it that much. The whole gameplay is, again, it plays like a board game. There are conversations where you have a screenshot and you have a narrator and some actors saying stuff, and at the end of it you can say yes or no. That's probably the most interactive part. So this conversation is like, are you gonna help us move, I don't know, cotton to this city? You say yes or no. If you say yes, then you're moved onto the main user interface, which is kind of interestingly drawn pictures of cities and stuff, and like you can trade there. You have a caravan, you buy guys to guard the caravan in case you are attacked. You trade all of your stuff, and then you move, you buy supplies, and then you move to another city, and you do that again and again and again and again, and that's it. And this is the whole gameplay. You move from city to city. Sometimes you say yes, sometimes you say no. Sometimes you trade some stuff. Sometimes you buy stuff, and it has no end. And yeah, that's the game.
All right.
I don't even and you can play missions separately. That's awesome. And the missions are same boring stuff. It's pity.
So FMV is wasted, and you do not
Yeah.
recommend it, is what you're saying.
Yeah, because just go watch the TV series. There's no point because it's in a 320 by 20 pixels anyway,
Right.
and in a small screen.
Right.
And yeah, it's a shame because the material they had, they could made a great game. What they did is a great edutainment, because the second part is the educational part, and this is like the whole huge, fuckingly huge database. You have everything from life in the cities, life in the time, about Marco Polo, about people around him, about, siege weapons, anything. It's hundreds of pages, and all of them are actually narrated, and they are narrated by a pretty cool guy. If it kind of looks like two separate teams worked on this, or they used time on edutainment, and they didn't think, oh, we have this great idea for edutainment, but like we should probably make a game out of it. Yeah, but what kind of a game? I don't know. Look, I played this Risk game yesterday. Let's try to put it on the edutainment part, and yeah, let's just sell it. Such a shame, because when I actually knew about the TV series before I played the game, so I was very much looking forward to it, and I was so disappointed. And music is made by Frederick Metzen, who made Alone in the Dark, Eternum, and it's pretty good music. Such a shame and such a wasted potential. Yeah, it's not even like if you watch just 5 minutes on YouTube, I don't even know if there are any clips. Maybe I made one or two. Yeah, just go and like give it 10 seconds. It's about. It's a shame. Very, 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 very disappointed.
Oh well. Well, shall we move on? I would like to plow very fast for the next two, because I actually spoke about next game on your list is William Shatner's Tech War.
Yeah.
A capstone release from 1995. I've spoken about this game extensively in my Build Engine podcast with Ben Chandler, and
Bill Shatner.
I know, right? It's not a far leap from, but yeah. So, like I mentioned, I'll recap quickly. Game's bad. It's unplayable. And as far as FMV, they use the intro from the TV show, and then before and after each mission, there's a personal appearance of Mr. William Shatner, who gives you a briefing and kind of fucking says some shit about you, and then at the end, depending on the outcome of the mission, he'll either scold you or
praise you,
or congratulate you. That's about the extent of it. The FMV looks all right. I mean, the intro from the series looks like it's been digitized from some kind of a TV like beta tape, and
yeah, I agree.
And then all the new stuff looks like Shatner was in the studio for an hour and put on a suit. So that's about it, really.
And another part, they also made an interview later on with him. So, but that's something you can Google on YouTube. Yeah, Tech War. I wanted to like the game. Like it had the idea of having the living city and everything, but like it was too soon to have it implemented.
It had
This,
many
this is
ideas.
actually
It wasn't too soon. I believe that it was not too soon, and you could totally do it. It just feels like there was never any concrete design. They just went out and did things, and then they put it all together, and none of it actually worked. And yeah,
that was made before Duke Nukem 3D. Was that was that actually a full build version, or did they work on some pre final build?
no, it
version
was
of
well.
it?
I mean, they have worked with Build Engine before on Witch
Witch
Haven,
Haven.
so which was the first commercially released Build Engine game. So they worked with that very early rough version. You can tell that they didn't have any later enhancements because of how you control. And I'm gonna say it again, you control like shit. So you control slightly better than in Witch Haven, but you don't feel like a person. You feel like a boat gliding over over the floor. And
Yeah. Let me just say one thing. Like, there's a 20-minute run through the game on YouTube. Go see that, guys, because this is kind of worth it. Only because of the last level that is in cyberspace.
yeah, this speedrun, I think it was like the most boring speedrun you can see. Like just the speedrun itself, you can see how boring it is, and that's that game at like times 15 speed. So, like, yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, but the cyberspace
Cyberspace
level
is called the Matrix. That's about the only thing that's interesting about it.
yeah. Okay, let's move on.
Oh yes, let's move on, please.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, so now we have the best game from the whole list, and that's, of course,
But
not
by the best, we mean the worst.
the worst.
It's by far the worst. I mean, that game is
And it's made
also
from the same company that
yes,
made
same year too. So it's Zorro by Capstone. Now that is a game clearly inspired by. Well, let's again. Tech War maybe had a good idea when somebody sat at the desk before they wrote it down and thought of it, right? So I think Zorro, it comes very much from the same place. Where like everybody likes Prince of Persia. Prince of Persia is a good game. Who else could be a hero to sort of do the jumpy fucking fighty stuff?
Yeah, well, let me say this, like, some of the team is actually the same as in the Tech War.
Well, yeah, of course. But it's like so it's like yes, of course. So it makes sense. Zorro. Okay, it doesn't really make sense because Zorro is about running on roofs and kissing girls, not in the dungeons. So before we get to the FMV, which I have not really seen because I've always played the ripped version or the floppy version. So I've never seen the FMVs. So it's Zorro in dungeons and it's Prince of Persia, but broken. Like the controls are never exact. Like you jump from the same spot and you never know where you're gonna land. And then the dungeons are insanely complicated. Like right from the get-go, there are those rotating platforms that rotate 90 degrees as soon as you land on them, and there's sequences of them. And sometimes you land on a certain part of them, and they will not turn. Sometimes you land and they will turn. And sometimes you'd fall through like a sequence of 3 of them and will die. Sometimes you won't. Sometimes you like magically teleport to the other side. Zorro can use his whip. There's some soldiers in the dungeon who you can whip. Sometimes he would survive a 5-square fall. Sometimes he would not survive a 5-square fall. First level is impossible enough that I did beat it years later. Like I have spent years and years. The game is unplayable. It's unplayable.
I didn't made it past the first screen.
Yeah.
And I spent 2 hours doing it.
Yeah, no, it's
like, why the hell did you make a video of that? Like,
there's actually a video on YouTube.
This is the shout out to everyone who's listening. Download Zorro, play it, please finish it. I want to see progress in this game.
You can currently. I think there is what's his name? David Newton? Shit, he follows me on Twitter. I feel bad if he listens to this. But he's the guy who did this amazing video stumbling through Prince of Persia on almost every platform. Did you ever see that?
No, I
I recommend it. He's an expert Prince of Persia player, and he did a video where he put all the versions of Prince of Persia in one video, like at the same time, and then he made a video about each one of the versions. Like he takes a look at the differences and how broken all the ports are.
Wow.
So it's great. And he also played a bunch of Prince of Persia clones, and one of them was Zorro, which he told me later when I brought it up a couple of years later that it was a commercial release. He was like, "Oh, I thought that was a game somebody made in their basement," because it's broken. And he does significant progress over the course of, I don't know, like 20 minutes maybe. And I think he, like, at one point mentions that he cut out like a whole chunk of time of just dying over and over. You can. This is all you need to know about that game. Like it's unplayable. It's very possible to finish the first level, maybe if you put like consecutive like 3 hours into it, and you're lucky. A lot of it, I feel, is dependent on actual luck, if you die or not, and that's it. It's literally another, like, at least some people figured out how to play Tech War, right? It's broken, but it's not completely broken. This game is literally unplayable.
And let's be honest about it, it's one of the worst games ever.
Yes,
ever
it is
made.
one of those games.
People are
for that very
people are
reason.
mentioning Superman or something. I don't know. You could actually play that Superman.
Yes, Superman 64 is a bad, boring game. Yeah, this you cannot play. You literally cannot play this game. Like, you can even excuse big rigs, right? Because like stuff like that clearly was just made, something was made in 2 weeks and they slapped it and they released it in a jewel case, but they didn't ask fucking $50 on it, and they certainly didn't fucking film fucking FMV for it on top of it either. You know what I mean? Like, that's the difference. They thought this was a complete fucking product and put money into making fucking videos for it, which you can talk about, because I haven't seen any.
Just to relate the badness, like Blood Wings looks like the contender for the game of the year in comparison to this.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Like, yeah, nothing much I can say. And interesting tidbit is the music for this game was made by Robert Prince.
Yeah,
Who made Doom? Like, go figure. How I have no idea how that happened. But
well, commercial work, he's a working composer. But they should have, instead of hiring a fucking name musician, they should have hired a fucking name programmer and a name designer. The dungeons, like the designs themselves, are impossible. Like in a way that, I don't know. Same with Tech War, kind of. Like, I feel that maybe the same process was in place, that when it was all put together, nobody actually bothered to play it and see if it was playable. Because if they did at any point actually stop and attempted to play it, there is no way in hell they wouldn't have been like, guys, I think this isn't working out. Like, how did this happen? How did it progress so far that is the product that ended up on the shelf? Because there's art, there's art assets.
Didn't the Capstone actually fall down pretty soon afterwards, after these?
Yeah, but they released so many titles. I mean, Capstone did like put out quite a lot of things, and even as they were dying, the Intercorp, their division, they had two divisions. It was two different companies, but they were essentially Capstone. They just alternated, but I don't know for what purposes. They were actually based in that same city that a game of Golden Wake takes place. Coral something. Ah, shit, I should know this too. But yeah.
You know what? Now I just remembered. We kind of skipped Tech War, but I was watching the interview with Bill Shatner, and he kind of said, like, they asked him about Intracorp and Capstone, and he said, like, I recommend them. They are the best company to handle Tech War game. The whole, like, I went to the Universal guys and asked them who's the best for our game. So Universal said Capstone. And the head of the company is the most inventive guy. He has great enthusiasm, and there's no limitations to his technology, blah, blah, blah.
That's like, great. Well, they did handle quite a few licensed titles, right? They did the Stephen King game, they did the fucking Wayne's World game, so it would make sense. And maybe their head of their thing was kind of an inventive guy, because he came up with pretty good concepts. It's just weird that maybe there was no management. I don't want to fucking speculate anymore how those games came to pass.
About the licenses, I always say it's the question of money, because licenses take a chunk of your development budget, and if you even spend it on FMV on top of that, people don't realize how expensive FMV is. So like let me put this into like kind of perspective. This is not a DOS game, Panic in the Park. And I actually found the budget for the game in one of the magazines, and with a very nice list. And it's like the game cost $1 million
Right.
to produce, and they used 5 days for filming, and that each day of filming cost $100,000. So any kind of an FMV that was ever used, even people don't realize Night Trap cost what, 3 million?
Yeah, Night Trap was expensive, but it also was a fairly unusual project for the late 80s, you know?
Yeah, that is true. But like whenever you used a full-blown Hollywood people, it ended up like they got unions. They were paid ton of money, even for standing around. And so yeah, whenever someone used FMV, it
Well,
was
it
very
depends,
costly.
you know, like, it really seems like certain things, like, you know, like, Phantasmagoria cost $500,000 more than Wing Commander 3, and my question is how and why? Like,
And I think that is like they didn't. Maybe they used kind of an like Hollywood production and everything, but I think
not on
they.
Phantasmagoria, they didn't.
Well, Phantasmagoria is, for me, a lot of money went to research and development.
Of what?
But they built the fucking studio. I
Yeah,
think
in
that
the
was actually.
in the hangar, and then you tell me that a professional crew couldn't even fucking make sure that the like they touted it as professional, but I am sorry, the sound recording in that oh my god, let's not talk about Phantasmagoria, because the technical aspects of Phantasmagoria are so incredibly fucked up, and then you look at Wing Commander 3 that doesn't only have talent, like real talent, right? Not somebody from a fucking Skinemax fucking flick and people from a local fucking puppet theater who shouldn't even show their faces on camera, right? They have real talent, acting talent, but besides that, professional production, sound, lighting, despite the fact that, you know, they're all on green screen at that point. You know, the lighting matches, they have moody lighting, they have the eye highlights, professional makeup, professional wardrobe, and like in Phantasmagoria, like everything just looks and sounds like shit. Like, and that game cost $4 million, like $4 million,
And I
like
think
$6
this
million.
cost
Oh god.
was because of the whole learning curve. Okay, Origin made it better, and that's why they made it within the boundaries and what they did, and they did amazingly. Phantasmagoria, not so much. It cost even more, and I think that's what was the turning point for well, turning point, bullshit. What I mean is, I don't know how much time they actually spent making Phantasmagoria. Maybe
Oh, it was a long time for
they,
the
movies like
for the
the reshoots or anything. It kind of maybe happened that they realized they spent weeks of making something that is completely unusable. They throw it away and start it away
I don't think
again.
was any reshoots. It's actually fairly well documented in the interviews that on the Phantasmagoria website. Which I because if there were any reshoots, I'm sure they would come up with something fucking better. I think the more time was spent on the 3D backgrounds, and well, obviously a lot of time was spent on those backgrounds. And let's face it, like those backgrounds are great, kinda. They make no fucking sense, but they, you know, it's clearly where the monies went, especially for the time. They're very incredible, like big giant, like detailed 3D backgrounds. But whatever. Let's not. Oh fuck! Why are we talking about Phantasmagoria? Let's not talk about
I
Phantasmagoria.
don't know. Well, but that was interesting part that you can cut out. Later.
Actually, I'm gonna leave this. This is pertaining to things, and people can see. Like that's why when I was writing my review for Phantasmagoria, which is why I haven't made the review until recently in 4 years, because I started screaming at the screen, and that was the end of my reviewing career because I couldn't handle it. Phantasmagoria is one game that I absolutely loathe. Like it makes me angry. Thinking about it makes me angry. Like
So if you like had to choose, like finishing Phantasmagoria or Bloodwings, what would you choose?
ooh, well, I'll probably
Don't
choose.
you dare.
Yeah, I'll probably choose Phantasmagoria just because I've played through it a few times, so I could probably get through it a lot faster. It was going to be a lot less painful experience to me. And not to mention, Phantasmagoria has fast forward button for just about everything. So I could probably knock it out in like 20 minutes and be done with it.
So what took you 40 years to write it?
It's whatever. It's not what's the most painful. It's just, like I can hold my hand over a candle for 2 hours, or maybe I can stick my hand into a fucking frying pan for 5 seconds. I'll probably choose the 5 seconds, so just because I'll get it over quickly.
Okay, pragmatic. That's I respect that. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on then.
Yeah. Oh. Actually, next game I like a lot.
Yeah, I agree. It has ton of problems.
Well, maybe as far as FMV goes, but not as far.
Yeah.
I really like this game. The next game on our list is the Terminator Skynet, which is...
Which I never understood if it was only named Skynet or Terminator.
It's called the Terminator Skynet in the documentation. And it's a standalone expansion for Terminator Future Shock, a previous... What? It's what it is. I mean, you can run them together. You can even join them.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, originally it was supposed to be a data disk, yes, but later on
it was expanded into a thing. But the good thing about it, you can install it on top of the Future Shock, and it would allow you to play Future Shock with first bugs fixed, which was important because Future Shock was very buggy. And it will allow you to play Future Shock and SVGA and stuff. And Skynet is actually a significantly shorter game, but...
it has like half of the machines of the original.
Yes, but they're also longer and more sort of open spacey. So and, multiplayer is expanded and stuff. And of course, the biggest addition to the game is the FMV cutscenes, which are frankly kind of terrible. They're not like awful, but they're just like they're so not special that it is like everything from like wardrobe to casting choices is weird, and then the dude who gives you the fucking missions keeps looking at that girl's tits all the time, like visibly. I think everybody who played that game notices that every time he's not looking, he's looking at her tits.
I haven't noticed that, to be
honest. Just go over it when we're done, and you can just laugh forever. Find any cutscene where the two of them are together. And
holy shit! I finished that game 3 times. Like, okay, I never noticed it, but this is interesting trivia. Like, okay, I love that.
Yeah. So you got your John Connors, you got your Kyle Reeses, and
it's like 14, and he's like the most annoying kid ever.
Yeah, it's bad, and they give him those camouflage suits, like the camouflage suits are fucking ridiculous. They look like this snow, like burned out snow camouflage suits that would never work. In the future that the Terminator showed us.
The only camouflage they could
find in the hunt in
24 hours before shooting.
in a hunting store somewhere. So I like the game. I really like the game, and it's prequel. I do recommend those games. Just pirate. I said it multiple times before. Pirate them and play them. They will never be released ever again because of the licensing issues. Because there's so many things involved. It's like
and it's a shame.
Yeah, it's a shame that there's one of those forgotten 90 shooters. Let's not forget that the Future Shock was a full real 3D first-person shooter before Quake.
That was the first game that actually like used free look and stuff. I think also.
Well, not the first game, but out of mid-90s first-person shooters, it certainly it did that before Quake or anybody else. So it's interesting. They're both really cool games.
And I agree completely. It's a great game. Like I'll get to FMV later on, but like just to maybe build up on a little bit what I think was great about Future Shock and Skynet is it was 3D. It was it was made by Bethesda. Mm-hmm. And in this game, you can see what is Bethesda today, in a sense.
Well, it uses the same like X engine or whatever the fuck it was called, the Daggerfall, and all of their games ended up using.
It's the X engine that was used in Daggerfall later on, and you can
tell clearly.
You can see clearly you you are in the city that is, destroyed over the nuclear holocaust. You can go into the buildings, explore them, and like you see Fallout 3, 4 in this game,
Yeah.
actually.
Well, yeah. For the time, the environments are very detailed, and the weapons are cool, the designs are cool, the robots are cool. Like I really like this game, and then you get to pilot vehicles and stuff, and in multiplayer you can
Yeah.
enter and leave vehicles and stuff. So, like it's like yes,
And I also think like the first mission of Skynet is I say one of the best built missions, like from point of view, like a feeling you have from the playing, because you're infiltrating
oh yeah,
Terminator base, and then you found out that they have a nuke there, and all of a sudden the big alarm is, and you are hunted by so many robots, and you cannot kill them all, so you just run to your
yeah.
jeep, and all of a sudden you're trying to like you're driving with the jeep through the robots, you're crashing them, you just want to go free away, and it's really great. Like the first mission is really 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 fucking awesome.
No, there's good games.
uh,
I will always recommend those games. I think
yeah.
they're unfairly forgotten, and because they're licensed games, right? But this is like a case of a licensed game, of a license being
But everyone
well
remembers
used
the
too.
Daggerfall. Like everyone remembers Daggerfall.
Yeah, but
Why it's Skynet?
Daggerfall's an event, right? So it was well advertised and was sort of
Yeah.
brought
But
out as an
it
event.
was also very advertised at the time. And yeah, that's actually a very interesting thing. Like this is the game that made Todd Howard, because I think that was the second game he worked
Oh,
on.
really?
Yeah, he joined. I think I read an interview with him when he wanted to join Bethesda, and they told him like, "You go fuck off and finish school first." So he finished school and applied again, and they told him to fuck off again.
Wow.
Anyway, one day he got in, and I think like might start like 1994, 1995, but he worked on on Future Shock and Skynet,
Hmm.
and he was producer or something like that on Skynet. So yeah, and I think he's building on the game since then. Yeah, FMV. Well, for video production is responsible guy named Brent Erickson. That's a very interesting person, because if you go over his list of work, you'll see that he worked on the old Tex Murphy games
Huh.
and also Noctropolis, and he
Oh,
ended up
okay,
in
makes sense. Yes.
So yeah, FMV are not FMV, like they clearly didn't have any budget. You have like 3 or 4 actors, and that's it, and in one room. That's all. All of them are. I think the John Connor guy is at least bearable, and the rest of them are really not good actors. Uh, I cannot say much. The quality is pretty good. I think
Yeah.
Bethesda technically used pretty advanced codec. It's not a high resolution, but oh, sound is really shitty. I don't understand how they did that, but it's even worse than Phantasmagoria, I think.
Yeah. Well, again, I think that's from a lack of. That's clearly a lack of budget
Yeah.
and the proper facilities. So they just like literally put up like a table, like a wall, the screen, and put everybody in hunting suits, and like off you go for So that's clearly where the FMV comes in this game. So
Yeah.
I won't fault it for that. Like it wasn't fucking $4 million.
Yeah, definitely. Uh, yeah, I can't say much on top of that. Like it was interesting to see the FMVs in the game, and yeah, you could just skip them, and you wouldn't be,
Yeah.
you wouldn't feel any difference.
No.
Yeah, I don't think what happened with these actors. I couldn't even find any like interesting information about them. But there is one thing I found about the actress that played the. I don't even remember her name. Like her name is like within the game. The actress is Sonja Gaubinger, and she used to be a model,
Uh huh.
which is you could see from the game.
Yeah.
She has a
That guy could certainly see it.
But she has very interesting like a life background because like she was supposed to get married in 1991, but she crashed with her fiance who died,
Oh,
and she actually
Jesus.
couldn't walk, and like she built up her life from start again,
Wow.
and that's when she started to be a model basketball player, and she acted in few advertisements and in Skynet, and she wrote a book about it. It's like
All
you
right.
know, it's just the interesting stuff that you never realize about the people in gaming because, like, we can, tell bad stuff about the games.
Yes.
We can tell, bad stuff about the FMVs, but yeah, and it's something I'm trying to do, with my website and Twitter and everything is kind of look into these people and see their background and what's behind them. And it's full of interesting stories, even from, a surface point of view, and that's why I do the stuff I actually do. Like, there's a ton of people that work their asses off on the products that we forgotten about. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on another one.
Yeah,
That's
I
I
think.
don't have anything else from Skynet.
Yeah, me neither. Play it. That's all.
Yeah, played.
Yeah, next one is interesting. In a way, it's a game I haven't played but knew of existence of. It's Top Gun, Fire at Will. Well, at that point, I think it was a third Top Gun game on PC already.
Might have been, but I know only of this one. Like, I later on figured out that there were more of the games.
Yeah.
Like for me from my childhood, there was only Fire at Will that I knew about.
And it's weird because like it's an adaptation of the movie. Like it's a flight sim and it's Spectrum Holobyte flight sim, right? So we know like they're known for some decent flight sims, right? So
Yeah.
I looked it up, and as far as flight sim people could tell me, it's not great, but it's like a B minus kind of a as far as the
Have you
simulation.
played it?
No, I haven't. I suck at Sims, so it's that. But I looked it up, and so I'm being told the simulation is all right, not bad, not great, but playable, and it looks like it looks okay for the time. Also, not particularly great for 1996. But the gimmick, of course, is the Top Gun thing, where they put the fucking FMV of you at the bottom.
And you play Maverick.
Yes.
You really play Maverick.
Yes, and it's doing
Put it out there.
it's doing the whole fucking thing with the face. Well, it also has all the in between mission stuff, but while you're flying, you have the in your HUD you have your face with the clouds behind you and stuff.
Like, I played it. I played it for a couple hours. I tried to play it for a couple hours because that's what I do. I try to play games even when I suck at them. Yeah, it's based on Top Gun, and problem is, if you see any FMV video out there on YouTube, it has fucking interlaced video. People should learn to go into settings and disable that shit. But yeah, no one probably noticed or haven't read the manual. So you can go into the lower resolution and have non-interlaced video, which is great. It's lower resolution, but at least you see shit what's happening on the screen. Game starts with pretty good opening.
Wow, it's Danger Zone.
It's Danger Zone. It's some sort of a karaoke version. It's low budget Danger Zone,
yeah.
and they used
Poor man's Danger Zone.
Yeah, and I think they used unused material from the movie.
Possibly.
Plus the original, and it kind of, I think, replaced one of the scenes from the movie, and it even does. Yeah, doesn't matter. It's a good scene. You see James Tolkien, who's the main actor from the movie, who's reprising. I didn't actually understood if he's playing the same character like in the movie or completely different one.
I think he's supposed to be the same, but they took one of the characters out and replaced him. Replaced him with him. That makes no sense. But
his character doesn't make sense because in one part, like the game starts where he's your commanding officer, like in the movie, and he's pestering you for some shit you did, and then all of a sudden he's taking you to Miramar and he's your leader, and trainer. Like, what the fuck? Why? Well, yeah, I understand he's the famous actor, so they used him as much as possible. As you mentioned, I would say the simulator is pretty fine, pretty arcadish. It's not like one of these 100 buttons to just
Right.
took off, because I think the takeoff is manual, but the landing is actually automatic. And if you use autopilot, you can finish the game by just having the autopilot. It takes you from waypoint to waypoint. It aims for you,
Nice.
and you just hit the button. And
Oh, I love the games that play themselves.
like a second, like first mission is you learn to fly, go to waypoints, and it tries to replicate the mood of the movie, where
You just fly,
you have
fly by the towers.
I don't know if that is it, but I mean the communication between characters
Oh
during
yeah,
the flight.
yes.
You have this chatter, very similar to Wing Commander when the characters are talking about, but in here they talk a lot during the mission. They actually don't stop talking. They talk all the time during the mission. And there's, random attack just to surprise you. And, this other pilot is trashing you, blah, blah, blah. And second mission was, I think, duel with the James Tolkien character. And I couldn't shut him down. So I just used autopilot and it started following him. And I just hit, after a few minutes, I just hit the space button, which is fire, and it killed him. And like, okay, we can finish this game this way. The whole story follows. You are on Miramar training, and there's a war brewing in Cuba or something. There is a mercenary group flying from Russia. They are called the Cadre, and there's the backstory where a leader of this group was, I just think his colleague was shot down by your father, or it's really like a plot from some B movie.
Wow,
Top Gun-ish something.
let's come on. It's Top Gun. I mean the only
It's Top Gun. It's Top Gun in a good and in a bad.
yeah. Well, the only way it should have had like a shirtless volleyball simulator somewhere. Playing with the boys. It's a terrible movie. Oh my god. I don't know why people like it so much. Like, you watch it now, like I watched the re-release when it was in theaters again, and all I could think is like how bad it is. Oh my god, that movie made so much money. And there's another one coming. God. Oh no.
Yeah. Okay, so.
But that's that from me. I haven't played it. I just looked it up, and it looks like something I probably wouldn't play. Well, I think we're now coming up on the case of a rose tattoo.
Oh.
Also 1996.
Okay, to be honest, it's 1996, the case of the rose tattoo, and I saw a 10-minute video. I don't have much to say about that. It's apparently from the reviews, it's one of the best Sherlock Holmes games.
Yes, it's considered to be. It's definitely better than its predecessor, which is better remembered, but I think it's sort of overrated. The case of a serrated scalpel.
Didn't even play that one.
It's a fine game with cool art style and everything, but it's really pixel hunty, and I think it's really fiddly. I think the case of Rose Tattoo fixed a lot of those problems, but I think the biggest thing at the time was, and correct me listeners if I'm wrong with this, but most people could not play it for some kind of a technical issue. Like, I remember that being widely the case where most people who got it couldn't run it. I don't exactly remember why, and I didn't really bother looking it up, but I seem to remember that being the case. Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, so it's a Sherlock Holmes game. Now it's in high resolution SVGA, and instead of like the first Lost Files of Sherlock Holmes game was all hand drawn, well, not hand drawn, pixel art. This game now has digitized actors for everything, and like when you enter conversations, they sort of stop their predefined animations, and actually a digitized sequence plays out on top of the background and stuff. So looks pretty nice. And stuff, and pretty well written and stuff, and pretty well acted. I mean, there's really not much for me to say about it. I have never finished it, so I haven't played much of it. So I I really don't know. But yeah, some people who did get to play it seem to like it.
Yeah, that's what I kind of heard from you anyway. So that's it.
Yeah.
What do we have next?
Well, we have Waterworld. Let's talk about Waterworld first.
Yeah.
That's actually a very interesting project. That's the game that time forgot.
Completely. I don't even understand why, to be honest. Because
It's Waterworld. So I think that's actually that's about it's a weird license, right? So it's 2 years. That game came out it wasn't a tie-in.
Yeah.
So it's a licensed game that came out 2 years after the movie that everybody fucking hated.
I didn't.
Yes, I know, but for most of the wrong reasons. Let's face it, like it was hailed as like as like the worst movie of all time around the time. It's not even close to the worst movie of all time.
Bullshit, bro. It's just it was overblownly expensive.
Yes.
Everyone kind of hated it.
It's an expensive, and because people maybe expected more than a Mad Max ripoff.
Yeah, whatever. To be honest, I was thinking about if this is worse than Pirates of the Caribbean or not. No, it isn't. It's on the same level. It's the summer blockbuster movie.
First Pirates of the Caribbean is really good. What the fuck are you talking about?
Whatever. You know what? Dennis Hopper is fucking great in the movie.
Yeah, well, and yeah, he got a Razzie for that. So it's he
did?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Come on, he was really funny.
Yeah, he's great.
What the?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if you like Mad Max, there is nothing wrong with watching fucking Waterworld because it's essentially Road Warrior, but with bigger budget and on water instead of fucking sand. Like that's what it is.
It's fucking long. It could be shorter for 30,
yeah,
40 minutes.
Yeah, it's true, but it's not a bad fucking movie. And surprisingly, to tie it in, Waterworld is actually not a bad fucking game.
It's actually a pretty good game.
It's a pretty good game too, and it's weird because it also has a fairly interesting solution for the FMV as well, because they use footage from the movie and sometimes they edit around it to sort of make it fit into the new footage that they shot, and sometimes they just flat out composite people on top of the old footage.
No. They actually used the original actors from the movie, the lesser knowns.
Right, but there's also moments when they clearly compositing a new thing on top of the they put the actors in front of like a green screen, and then they play like some footage from the movie like behind them and stuff.
Okay,
yeah. So, but it's actually fairly well used. The acting is decent. You can see that one guy that's remotely famous is in it. I forget his name. One of the character actors.
I don't remember the names, but I know it's the guys who actually played in the movie and that they reprised their roles, which is pretty great. I loved what they did with the FMVs.
The FMVs is good quality. They have decent wardrobe, and the editing of the footage from the movie, like when it's worked into those cutscenes, is actually, I mean, it's nicely done. And the game itself is like a simple RTS with basic like trading in between. So you just have your own sort of squad of people, and you give them weapons, and there's no building, and you just go and attack the other guy. And it looks nice. It looks a little bit weird, but I think it actually replicates the style of the movie fairly closely.
I agree.
So it has that maybe slightly like if Kill, Crush, and Destroy was zoomed in a little bit, like that's what it kind of looks like.
It's a very good comparison. I didn't thought of it this way.
But not the gameplay wise, but visually, like it has a sort of weird perspective going and stuff a little bit and stuff. But I would actually recommend people play Waterworld. It's a fairly accessible game too, and if you like the movie, it actually does the movie justice. Like this is a very good use of license, a license that I'm sure nobody fucking wanted. like
Well, they started when the movie was supposed to. They worked on the game for
2 years, especially considering how long it took for the movie to come out.
Oh yeah!
Wow.
Have you even noticed who developed the game?
I know it's in Intelligent Games and published by Interplay. I don't know who the fuck Intelligent Games are.
Dune 2000, Emperor Battle for Dune, Red Alert Data Discs.
Really?
Azrael.
Okay, so that actually
explains a lot.
more. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So yeah, I would say I don't have really much more to say to it, but I will say that FMV is good and the game is good. How often does that fucking happen?
Yes, yes, I completely agree. There's like 20 missions between them. You have a FMV. The story kind of follows Waterworld in a sense. You try to find the dry land, and it starts interestingly because there's a very good narration in between the missions. Also, like you start where your people are dying, and you attack one of the atolls. You seize them. You build your base there, and it's like in narration it says like we wanted to work with them, but we took their home from them because we had to, because that's what the life is here. And it's interestingly narrated. It's pretty grim. Actors are great in it, in all the scenes. I like the guy who's responsible for all the water and supplies and everything, and he kind of says you have to attack this another atoll. And to be honest, you kind of like, if you don't bring all the people back, that kind of resolves my problem with supply. So, like, yeah, let some people die, and I'm okay, because yeah, it's not me, it's the numbers. Go, uh, go. People play it. It's a very good game. Reviews are pretty harsh. I I don't think they do the justice.
Yeah, I haven't actually read any reviews. Again, this is also a game I didn't know existed for years. It's only when I like really dug in deep later in my life to actually find like DOS games or commercial releases that probably weren't known that came up, and because I saw an ad for it, and I was like, and then I played it, and I was like, huh, I'm so surprised that this is actually a decent game. So yeah.
Yeah.
And shall we move on to the cherry on top?
Yes.
Of our
let's
list. I won't really have much to say.
I have a lot.
All right, so let me go first then. So the game is Soldier Boys, 1997. We don't call them the FMV. It's I guess a rail shooter, I guess. Based obviously on Michael Dudikoff film by
Dudikoff. This is again the motion picture of America, or whatever that was the name. This is the same production company as Blood Wings.
So it's based on this movie, and you get to play as multiple characters, and it has footage shot specifically for it. Obviously, it plays like one of those. It plays, it's Mad Dog McCree.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that's exactly what it plays like, and it has the same shortcomings, and I don't like it. So you can now feel free to say anything you want to say about it.
Well, okay, to recapture, to say again, it has Michael Dudikoff, who's like a C grade. We had the A list: Schwarzenegger, Stallone.
Yeah, then we have the B list, the canon guys. So we had Chuck Bronson and Chuck Norris, and then
also Van Damme and Steven Seagal. They were kind of like B grade, and then
we have Michael Dudikoff. And there's also below that we have like a D thing where like Reb Brown and
this is way out of my expertise now, like level D. Oh, okay.
You've never seen Reb Brown movies?
No.
Oh, you should watch some. I'll find the list of which ones to watch. They're priceless.
Okay.
No, some of them are like legitimately.
You gave me like 3 movies today to watch.
It's okay. It's what I do. People think I play games all day, but I actually just watch movies all day.
And the villain is Keri Hiroyuki Tagawa. If people don't know who this is, go see Mortal Kombat. Shang Tsung is the coolest villain of them all, from the 90s at least. I love the guy, and he's great in this game too. He has also even Dudikoff and Tagawa had special footage made for the game, which is pretty amazing. I can say about the story is, if you take The Dirtiest Dozen, the classic movie about criminals going to rescue or whatever they did, this is the same. It's the bad guys who are trying to save some presidential daughter in Philippines, Vietnam.
It's Vietnam, yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, all of these guys are actually, they are like kids. And all of them are fucking stereotypes. There's angry Latina chick, there's black guy, there's 2 white guys, one of them is idiot and second is Nazi, and they all have weird names like Butts, Brophy, and of course, Angry Latina chick is Vasquez.
Oh god.
Go figure, of course. And the game is really a rail shooter, like the old American laser games. You move, you move from one point to another. I can't say much about it. All of it's SMK files in old resolution 320 by 200,
Yeah.
so it looks pretty shitty.
It's
And that's
shitty, but it's also okay considering unusually for the thing they move the camera like a lot in that game.
yeah, and that I hate it because controls is not very good or smooth.
No, the
And
mouse is like really like it feels heavy.
yeah, and thankfully, very thankfully, the game doesn't change anything. It shows you the same guy in the same place all over again. So you can like just by retrying and replaying, you can finish the game sooner or later. It's fairly funny, to be honest. It has so many hilarious scenes.
Yeah, it does.
It does. For example, like if you shoot a dog, there's a mission over, and Dudikoff will tell you like, he says like, what kind of a person would kill an innocent dog? And like, okay, we are a bunch of criminals and killers here. Come on. That's just one of the things. But the best part is, you finished it, right?
No.
You didn't. Okay. There's
I finished the
amazing
movie.
okay, in the movie, do you remember when they went to the hookers?
Something like that. It has been 20 years, you know that, right?
I saw it this year.
Oh
the movie,
god,
just because.
why?
Okay, just imagine. There's the guy, Brophy, and he goes to the hotel, which is just the house full of hookers, and there's a mission that you have to kind of sleep with every one of them and to extract the information from them. But before you are allowed to do that, you need to have a condom. And to get a condom, you have a scene. And you know when someone, I don't know how it's called, when someone hides something behind. There's a condom. It's hidden under some trinket, and there's three of them, and that lady is shuffling them, and you
Oh
need to
god,
watch the
like
shuffling,
yeah.
and you need to pick the correct place where the condom is,
Oh
and if you
god.
don't, they throw you out. So you return, and if you find the condom, you are allowed to go sleep with each of the hookers, and it's like so bizarre. And when you get the condom, that character says, "All right,"
Oh god.
it's so awesome, and bizarre, and absolutely like mind-boggling.
I might play it now.
Like go play it. It's just fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
No, nothing extra. Like you can finish game in 40 minutes or so. Uh,
Yeah, unlike that's my memory. I just stopped playing at one point because I just didn't care. I actually had that game in the pirated collection with like all the other rail shooters, so it was like a little bit cut down, so it didn't have some of the cutscenes, but it had just enough for the game.
and, there's another great scene towards the end of the game. You are pursued in guys are chasing you, and you have to go through minefield, and you go through the minefield by going left or right, and you move the mouse over to right or left, and the character is actually saying left or right, left or right. You do that probably in a sequence of 5 or 6 times, and like after end of this sequence, you actually all you hear in your ears is left, left or it's awesome. And we should get to the best part.
Oh, of course. Well, you go for it.
Okay, this movie was shot on location in Philippines, and the supplemental part was made by two very interesting guys, and one of them is named Matt or Matthew Libatic and Darren Aronofsky, which people should probably know. Darren Aronofsky is one of the most prolific directors today.
Right.
And Matt is probably his most often collaborated cinematographer.
DP.
like both of them have Oscars, and Soldier Boys is, I think, if I don't take into consideration their work on the short movies, or when was Pi made?
Pi was in 90.
1996.
Was it? I think it was maybe a little bit after that. Let's
Yeah, and
see.
as this was shot together with the movie, which was probably in 1995 or
1998. So Aronofsky was still in college then.
yeah. So this is probably their first full-length movie work they worked on, and for many years, I even remember like a half year ago or a year ago, this wasn't even mentioned in their IMDb pages. So somebody just added it recently. I don't know. I would be pretty proud of this work, to be honest. Everyone has to start somewhere.
Well, of course.
I think we are over with this list.
Yeah, we're done finally. It's actually was a pretty comprehensive list of all things considered. So
Yeah. It's like 15 games. I kind of thought we will fly through them.
no, it never happens. That never happens. You always say, oh, it's going to be 45 minutes, like 3 hours later. Yeah, so most of these games are probably not worth playing, except for the couple that we have mentioned.
But each of them is worth at least seeing.
Oh,
on
yes.
YouTube. Except Marco Polo, go see TV series.
Zorro is not worth seeing.
Yeah, well, you can't even
Or,
see it on
or
YouTube.
playing.
Yeah, that's some of the FMVs that are forgotten. From this list, now that I think of it, maybe if we ignore Rebel Assault or Sherlock Holmes, Dracula is pretty known, but most of these games are pretty forgotten. Anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
That was fun.
It was fun. Well, thanks for being here. Maybe we can separate a bunch more next time with a sort of kind of encompassing topic and discuss more in the future.
I'd be happy to, definitely.
Right. And dear listeners, if you have a topic that you would like to speak, a DOS related topic that you can speak for like talk for an hour and a half, 2 hours about, and just don't hesitate to contact me on Twitter, and you could be here on this podcast talking about stuff that you love that I'm sure somebody will listen to.
Yay, fame!
So that's it. Well, thank you very much, sir, for being here. But where can people find you and your work online?
They can check my website that I try to update, but it's so much work that I don't get to do it lately. It's at fmvstory.com. But something I'm updating more regularly. You can get in touch with me at Twitter at fmvstory. You'll find me there. And I'm trying to make it, at least sort of a fun.
Huh. Yeah, that's really cool. And actually, while you're here, I might as well give you the shout out for people who follow me on some people who follow me on Twitter. Probably know that I have been posting a lot of old PC gaming ads, pictures, and the thing is, I did originally just whatchamacallit, I originally found them in scans of all magazines, like on the spot, essentially. I still do that, where I just open a random issue of an old magazine and just start pulling out ads. But at one point, you have shared with most of the ads that you see, actually, people see on Twitter came from you, because you send me nearly 30 gigabytes of ads, and I want to stress it, gigabytes.
And I was very happy to do that because, well, that was one of the projects I did for a longer time. And like, I think I was unemployed for 3 months, like 2 years ago. And what I did is I was just extracting and archiving anything that I had, but I wasn't really able to do anything with it. So like when you kind of asked me for a few of them, I said like, fuck it, I have 30 gigs of it, like go take it all. And I was happy to do that because like, there's no reason for me having that stored and like do nothing with it. Like people should see all of this stuff. So I'm happy that you got it and that you are using it.
Thanks for sharing it because so credit where it's due. I did not find that many ads all at once. It's an incredible archive. So thank you very much. So now people know. I don't think I mention it that often, but yeah, now everybody knows. Hopefully everybody who listened for 2 hours at least knows. Well,
who would listen to end of this? Like, it's like 2 hours.
it's
for
okay.
Christ's sake.
I have podcasts that over 3 hours, so
No,
it's,
and not only like to be honest, I haven't listened to all of them, but like this is one of the most comprehensive folk podcasts you do, and like I love them, to be honest, and I'm very happy to be here.
Thank
Yay!
you, thank you. I'm happy. I'm happy that people actually suggest themselves. That's all people do. People need to suggest themselves to be on this podcast. I can sit down and talk. So somebody who knows better than I do of what they're talking about. I'm always happy to have them. Well,
Yeah, people, if you don't know what you're talking about, just go write Anatoly an email.
yeah. Well, thanks for being here again, and thanks to everybody who listened this far, and hopefully we can hear each other again on another episode of Das Nostalgia Podcast. Goodbye.
Goodbye.